Evelyn had always dreamed of her wedding day. She pictured it down to every detail: the beautiful white gown, her family and friends smiling, the soft music, and of course, holding hands with her beloved fiancé, Jide, at the altar. It was going to be the best day of her life. But on the day itself, something strange happened that no one could have imagined. Evelyn woke up early that morning in her small but lovely apartment in Lekki, surrounded by her bridesmaids. They were laughing, making jokes, and helping her get ready. Her white dress sparkled as sunlight poured through the windows, making her feel like a princess. Everything felt perfect, too perfect. As her friends pinned her veil and gave her last-minute advice, Evelyn suddenly heard a faint, unfamiliar voice whispering her name. At first, she thought it was just her nerves playing tricks, but as the whispers grew louder, she realized something was wrong. She looked around, but no one else seemed to notice. The voice was only in her head. Evelyn tried to ignore it. She closed her eyes, took deep breaths, and told herself to focus on her big day. Soon, her mother came to hug her, a proud smile on her face. But as Evelyn hugged her mother, the voice grew louder and more urgent, saying strange things she couldn't understand. She could feel her heart racing, her palms sweating. By the time they arrived at the church, Evelyn felt dizzy and confused. Jide, standing tall in his suit, waited for her at the altar with a big smile. Evelyn's eyes met his, and she wanted to feel safe, but the voice was now shouting in her head. Her mind started to cloud, and everything around her began to blur. She heard another voice, one of an old woman, chanting words she couldn't understand. As the priest began the ceremony, Evelyn started to feel as if she were being pulled in two directions, like two forces were fighting inside her. She shook her head, trying to clear her mind, but it only got worse. She looked around the church, and the faces of the guests started to look strange, twisted, and frightening. "Are you all right?" whispered Jide, squeezing her hand. But Evelyn couldn't answer. Her mouth went dry, and her vision darkened. She heard someone crying softly, and she realized with a jolt that it was her own voice. In a trembling whisper, she muttered, "Something's wrong, something's wrong." Then, to everyone's shock, Evelyn broke free from Jide's hand and stepped back, her eyes wide and wild. She started talking to the air as if someone invisible was standing right in front of her. The guests gasped, and whispers spread across the room. Jide and her parents rushed to her side, but Evelyn kept shouting, her voice filled with fear and confusion. The wedding guests watched in horror as Evelyn began to laugh uncontrollably, her laughter echoing through the church. Tears streamed down her face, and her makeup began to smudge. It was like she was no longer Evelyn, but someone else entirely, someone haunted by something unseen. The church grew silent, everyone too shocked to move. Some guests whispered, "Is she cursed?" Others shook their heads, feeling a chill run down their spines. Evelyn's family could only watch helplessly, their faces full of worry and pain. Just then, Evelyn screamed and pointed at something no one else could see. She shouted, "Leave me alone! Leave me alone!" Her voice sounded strange, like two people speaking at once. Her mother rushed to her, grabbing her shoulders, but Evelyn pushed her away, stumbling backward as if trying to escape from invisible hands reaching for her. As she backed toward the church doors, a sudden, powerful wind blew through the church, rattling the windows and sending a chill through everyone present. Evelyn's veil was torn from her head and flew down the aisle, like a ghostly figure escaping into the air. And then, with one last terrified scream, Evelyn ran out of the church, her white dress flowing behind her, disappearing into the streets of Lekki. Evelyn's wedding day continued. Outside, the sun shone brightly, but Evelyn felt a darkness creeping into her mind. She ran through the streets of Lekki, her feet pounding on the pavement, her heart racing. The laughter and whispers of the guests faded away, replaced by the echoing voice that still haunted her. She didn't know where she was going, but she just needed to escape the confusion inside her head. Meanwhile, back in the church, Jide was frantic. "We have to find her," he shouted, his voice trembling. She can't just run away like this. Her mother nodded, tears in her eyes, and the guests began to murmur, worried about their beloved Evelyn. They had never seen her like this before. But far away from the chaos, Evelyn's friend, Tola, watched with a smile. She had always been jealous of Evelyn's perfect life. Evelyn was beautiful, kind, and everyone loved her. And now she was about to marry Jide, the man Tola had secretly loved for years. Tola felt a storm of emotions, anger, jealousy, and a wicked thrill that made her heart race. Before the wedding, Tola had made a terrible decision. She had visited a herbalist, a man known for his dark magic, and asked him to help her. "Make Evelyn mad," she whispered, her eyes gleaming with greed. "Make her lose her mind so Jide will want me instead." The herbalist had agreed, but Tola didn't realize how dangerous this would be. As Evelyn ran, she stumbled into a small park, gasping for breath. The whispers in her head were relentless. Suddenly, she stopped and looked around, searching for answers. She felt as if the trees were watching her, and the wind seemed to be carrying the voice of her friend, Tola, taunting her. "You thought you could have it all, Evelyn? Not anymore." In that moment, everything clicked for Evelyn. The strange whispers, the way Tola had acted all week, it all made sense. Tola had always been a little too interested in her life, a little too eager to be part of her happiness. Rage bubbled inside her, battling with the confusion. She took a deep breath and clenched her fists. No one would take her happiness away from her. Not now, not ever. With newfound determination, Evelyn decided to confront Tola. She rushed back to the church, her heart pounding with purpose. When she arrived, the guests were still in shock, and Jide was pacing anxiously. As soon as he saw her, relief washed over his face. "Evelyn," he called out, rushing to her side. But she didn't have time to focus on Jide right now. "Where's Tola?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the chaos in her heart. Jide frowned, confused. "I don't know. She's been acting strange." Evelyn pushed past him and began searching the crowd. She spotted Tola standing at the back, a smug look on her face. Anger surged through Evelyn. She marched straight to her friend, who looked surprised but quickly masked it with a fake smile. "What's going on, Tola?" Evelyn demanded, her voice fierce. "What did you do to me?" Tola's smile faded as panic flickered in her eyes. "I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, but Evelyn could see the guilt on her face. "You're just stressed. It's a big day." Evelyn stepped closer, her heart racing. "No, you took me to that herbalist, didn't you? You wanted to ruin my life because you're jealous." The crowd gasped, and Tola's eyes widened in fear. "Tola, is that true?" Jide stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Did you really do that?" The accusation hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. "Yes, I did." Tola screamed suddenly, her voice breaking. "I was tired of living in your shadow, Evelyn. I wanted to be the one in the white dress, the one with Jide. I didn't mean for it to go this far." Tears streamed down her face, and the crowd murmured in shock. Evelyn felt a mix of anger and sadness wash over her. "You tried to take everything from me, and now it's backfired. Look at me, Tola. I'm losing my mind because of you." Suddenly, the whispers returned, louder than before, drowning out the chaos around her. But now, Evelyn knew she had to fight back. She took a step back, breathing deeply. "I won't let you control me. I'm stronger than this." With that, she turned to Jide, her eyes fierce. "I need help, Jide. I need to break whatever this is. I want my life back." He nodded, determination in his eyes. "We'll figure this out together. You're not alone, Evelyn." As they held hands, a wave of warmth flooded over Evelyn, pushing away the darkness. But in the corner, Tola watched with a mix of jealousy and fear. She realized that her plan was unraveling, but what would she do next? Would she try to fix her mistake, or would she dig deeper into the darkness? And as the crowd buzzed with whispers, something strange began to happen. The wind picked up again, swirling around them, and in that moment, Evelyn realized she had to confront not just Tola but the darkness within herself that had allowed this to happen. Would she be able to conquer the voices and reclaim her happiness, or would Tola's jealousy pull her deeper into madness? The tension in the air was thick, and the story was far from over. Evelyn stood hand in hand with Jide, her heart racing, feeling the energy swirling around them like a storm. The whispers grew louder, mixing with the murmurs of the crowd. She could feel Tola's eyes on her, filled with a mix of regret and something darker, something desperate. "I won't let you take me down," Evelyn said fiercely, her voice cutting through the chaos. She turned to face Tola, who looked both frightened and furious. "You need to stop this. Whatever you did with that herbalist, I'm going to undo it. I refuse to be your pawn." The crowd fell silent, all eyes on the two friends. Tola's face twisted in anger. "You think you can just walk away from this? You think Jide will still want you after this? You're broken now, Evelyn." Evelyn felt a rush of adrenaline. She wasn't broken. She was stronger than ever. "No, you're the one who's broken, Tola. Your jealousy has turned you into a monster. You should have been happy for me, but instead, you chose to hurt me." Suddenly, a figure stepped forward from the crowd. It was the herbalist, a mysterious man with wild hair and deep-set eyes. "I see the spell has begun to unravel," he said in a voice that sent shivers down Evelyn's spine. "You cannot fight the magic once it has been cast." "What do you mean?" Jide demanded, stepping protectively in front of Evelyn. "You're the one who did this to her. You need to help her." The herbalist smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "I only grant the desires of the heart." Tola's heart was filled with envy, and now that darkness has taken root in Evelyn, the only way to undo it is to confront the truth within. "What truth?" Evelyn shouted, feeling a mix of fear and determination. "What do I need to confront?" "The truth about yourself," the herbalist replied. "Jealousy exists in every heart. It can twist friendships and blind people to their own worth. Tola sought to take something from you, but deep down, you too have shadows that you must face." Evelyn felt the weight of his words. She thought of all the times she had doubted herself, all the times she had felt unworthy. But today was not a day for doubt. It was a day for standing strong. "Enough!" Tola screamed, her face contorted with anger. "You don't know anything about me. I didn't mean to hurt you, but you made me feel invisible." She stepped closer, desperation shining in her eyes. "I wanted to be seen, Evelyn. I wanted to be loved like you." Jide turned to Tola, his expression serious. "But this isn't the way to get love. You hurt someone you claim to care about. You need to fix this." Evelyn took a deep breath, sensing the tension in the air. "Tola, I'm not your enemy. I want you to be happy too, but this is not the way. You have to let go of this jealousy before it consumes you completely." The whispers in Evelyn's mind started to fade, replaced by a warm glow of understanding. Maybe Tola was right about one thing. She had been so focused on her own happiness that she had forgotten to reach out to her friend. Perhaps Tola needed help too, even if it felt impossible. As the herbalist watched, Evelyn stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Tola, I forgive you, but you need to face what you've done. We can help each other. Let's work together to undo this." For a moment, Tola seemed taken aback, her eyes widening in surprise. You forgive me," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. "But I hurt you." "Yes, you did, and I won't pretend it didn't hurt, but I also know that we can change." "I don't want to lose my friend," Evelyn said, her voice steady. The crowd murmured again, their faces a mixture of hope and disbelief. Could this really be happening? Would Tola accept Evelyn's forgiveness? Tola fell to her knees, sobbing. "I'm so sorry, Evelyn. I let my jealousy take control, and I didn't care who I hurt. I was too caught up in my own pain to see yours. Evelyn knelt beside her friend, placing a hand on her back. "It's okay, Tola, but we need to make it right. Let's find a way to undo the spell together," the herbalist observed quietly, intrigued by the change in the air. "To break the spell, you must both confront your heart's true desires. Tola must acknowledge her jealousy and learn to find happiness in herself. Evelyn must learn to embrace her own worth without comparison to others." Jide stepped forward, taking Evelyn's hand in his. "We're in this together," he said. "All of us. We'll help each other heal." Evelyn and Tola looked at each other, a new understanding blossoming between them. "I don't want Jide to leave me, and I don't want to lose you as a friend, Tola," Evelyn said softly. "But we need to work through this." Tola nodded, tears still in her eyes, but now there was a glimmer of hope. "I want to change. I want to be happy for you, Evelyn. I want to be happy for myself." "Then let's do it together," Evelyn replied, her heart filled with determination. "We can break this curse. We can heal." The herbalist stepped closer, a mysterious smile on his face. "Very well. Gather your hearts and speak your truths. Only then can the magic be lifted." As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the church and park, Evelyn and Tola stood side by side. They took a deep breath, ready to confront their fears, ready to mend their friendship, and ready to reclaim their lives. And as they began to speak, a calm settled over the crowd, a sense of hope rising like the sun. But the night was still young, and the darkness that had been unleashed lingered, waiting to see if their resolve would hold. Would they succeed in overcoming the shadows of jealousy and pain, or would Tola's earlier decision return to haunt them both? The story was still unfolding. Evelyn and Tola stood facing each other, the air between them charged with both fear and hope. The whispers in Evelyn's mind faded into silence, replaced by the strength of her own voice. "I want to be happy, Tola," Evelyn said, her voice steady. "I don't want to compete with you or anyone else. I want to be proud of my happiness, and I want you to feel the same about yours." Tola looked down, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I've always felt like I was living in your shadow, Evelyn. I wanted to be loved and admired like you, but instead of finding my own way, I tried to take yours, and it hurt both of us." She paused, drawing in a shaky breath. "I'm sorry for everything. I've let my jealousy consume me, and I don't want to be that person anymore." Jide, standing beside Evelyn, squeezed her hand, his presence a calming force. "It takes courage to admit mistakes, Tola, but it's even braver to try and change. We're here to support you." The herbalist nodded, his eyes glinting with interest. "True change begins with understanding oneself. You must each face your deepest fears and desires. Speak your truths aloud." Evelyn took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "I fear that I'm not enough, that my happiness can't last. I fear that I will always have to prove myself, that I'm only as good as the things I achieve. But I realize now that my worth doesn't depend on anyone else's opinion. I deserve to be happy, just as I am." As she spoke, the darkness that had gripped her mind began to lift, replaced by a warm light that filled her heart. Tola nodded, wiping her tears. "I fear being alone," Tola confessed, her voice trembling. "I thought if I took what was yours, I could feel loved and important. But I see now that hurting you didn't make me feel better. It only made me more alone. I want to find my own path, and I want you to be part of my life, not my enemy." The herbalist watched with approval, sensing the shift in energy around them. "Acknowledging your truths is the first step to breaking the spell. Now, you must forgive yourselves and each other." Evelyn turned to Tola, her heart swelling with empathy. "I forgive you, Tola. I want us to move forward, to rebuild our friendship. But you need to forgive yourself too." Tola nodded, a smile breaking through her tears. "I forgive myself for letting my jealousy control me. I want to be better, for myself and for you." The herbalist raised his hands, channeling his energy toward them. "With your declarations, The spell begins to weaken, but to truly break it, you must seal it with a promise. What kind of promise? Jide asked, his brow furrowed. A promise to support one another, to uplift rather than tear down. A promise to celebrate each other's victories and to stand together in hard times, the herbalist explained. Evelyn and Tola exchanged glances filled with understanding and resolution. I promise, they said in unison, their voices steady and strong. As they spoke, a wave of light enveloped them, washing over the crowd. The darkness that had lingered began to dissipate, and the whispers that had tormented Evelyn faded into a gentle breeze. The air felt lighter, filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers. The herbalist smiled, his eyes twinkling. You have done well. The magic is undone. Embrace this new beginning, and may your friendship flourish from this day forward. As the crowd erupted in applause, Jide pulled Evelyn into a tight embrace, his voice warm and reassuring. I'm so proud of you, Evelyn. You faced your fears and stood strong. Evelyn felt the warmth of his love surrounding her. I couldn't have done it without you, Jide. And now, I have my friend back. We can support each other moving forward. Tola stepped closer, her face radiant with hope. Thank you, Evelyn. I promise to be a better friend. I want us to grow together, to lift each other up. As they stood together, hand in hand, the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. The day had started with chaos, but it ended in unity and healing. The wedding may have been interrupted, but in its place, something far more precious was born, a renewed friendship and a deeper understanding of love. The guests rejoiced, laughter filling the air, as the three of them walked out of the church together. They knew the journey ahead wouldn't always be easy, but they had each other now, ready to face whatever came next. And so, Evelyn's wedding day became a story not of madness, but of redemption, of courage, and of the incredible power of friendship. As the stars began to twinkle above Lekki, a new chapter was just beginning, one filled with endless possibilities and the promise of brighter tomorrows.